It's Tuesday, it's May 16th, 2023. I am trying to traverse this um, almost like a simulcast, like a multi-stimuli, like how they're, and then through a chapter of time, I'm sitting in a place where my entire life it feels like was like upstaged and stolen from me. Um, and I'm trying to like gain my footing. I don't know why I have no access to corporate security or global security. I don't even know who they would be. My attempts. Now I'm in a place where, I mean, around the world, the monetary system is usually linked to the kings of that area or the oligarchs. Those are the two words. Mine happens to look genetically like this, for which I qualify. So I know I'm in the right area. And that's the house that they gather under. So I go to this on Sundays. When I went to this place um, with my son, trying to look for some form of community, like still accessible in the New York area. Um, I find um, I found this Sunday they made mention of the parting of the Red Sea, and she said it's also referred to as the Sea of Reeds, which I had never heard of. And today I'm looking for pieces um, of how to structure my conversation and my concerns for this area. One of them being they have an interview this morning on CBS about Barack Obama. Now, for family security, corporate security, which then goes into global security at an upstage conversation, and knowing that I look family security like this, I don't understand how the Democratic Party nominated and put him on a ticket. Isn't that signaling of an attempt to overthrow their side of the party system? Can the elephants do anything in order to protect corporate security for this purpose in this house at the executive level? I mean, I don't know. Like Facebook investigates. I mean, that's what I feel like this is at the moment. Um, Even though the letters of the soup don't necessarily like add up, but I don't know. I've been upstaged my entire life and I have tie-ins with being literally like run off from being able to develop properly in this area on top of some of these signals. So this is really concerning for me. So what I'm doing is I'm watching through a window of what they're portraying from several different levels, hoping to get some kind of tie in and tie down, I suppose, to this area to protect myself. And then the interesting thing is, in astronomical terms, I hold key here and key to future. I have a binary star system, but like in olden days, they used to call it the clock system, the biological clock system. I already have the symmetry, which is a rare feature. I did a video on that the other day with a visual arts piece from that I borrowed as a reference from NASA, Caltech. Um, so I'm looking at this piece of Jurassic Park, and I've never been able, I don't know what, like beginning piece, I don't know how to use a computer like this. I never got into a tech field. I don't know people that know this kind of or level of technology or running technology. But then it goes into viewing like a security board of cameras. I don't have access to that either, other than what I've created based on just this one television, like regular television, no matter what they call it. But this is what it looks like. Like, I don't have access to that level of information, but I'm watching the TV and some of the input pieces like as if it was a security system photo. So this way, to protect myself and my son in this area, now we're going through some migration crisis. I hear that it was going on in the 80s, but back then it was just, they said on CBS this morning on Sunday with Jane Pauley, they said it was just a trickle back in the 80s. Now it's, I mean, it's much more abrasive. And now at family services, they're not even I mean, like, where is the management at family services for the White House? Because they've had a disruption in service that now makes it look like the optics on it are terrible. So I'm using this Thunderbirds just as a reference since somebody was part of that back in the day, and I'm hoping to find the correct person. It says an operation to move the Empire State Building ends in disaster when the ground collapses. I'm sure hoping not. That came out in 1965, but it taped just a little bit of the show called Invaders. It's a woman in a red dress, and it says something about Reed, and I'm like, is that? I mean, because now I'm hearing parting the Red Sea, and they said that Moses has a staff that he, not a dandelion, not a whatever, but an actual staff that he commands the Red Sea to part. So this way, there's a pathway through. So I'm really curious about that story, and I'm going to put this reference on real quick.
Perhaps it has ended for the Reed family, but for David Vincent, it is still the beginning.
And again, they refer to that as a UFO. And if by, I know they say unidentified, unidentified flying object, but if that's like upstage of the family order, that seems really concerning to me, being in the New York area with this new migrant crisis going on. With, to quote Marvel Studios, um, there's what looks like Nick Fury in the mayor's office, and some of these other things going on. In I really, is the breach and the lack of trust just on the Democratic side, since they put this person that is an optical illusion and a problem on into the White House on their ticket? I mean, I didn't vote for him. I very really voted for the other guy, which I think was Mitt Romney at the time. Um, so, I mean, they had my vote on file. I was not agreeing to putting this, but again, at who even nominated him. I mean, the upstaging has been going on my entire life, and it's affected my life cycle. I mean, I don't even have opportunity. I don't know. I don't have a pathway or a doorway that I can see into receiving um, help or funds from the government at this point, or a place to work within the government. I definitely have the family genetics of what's traditionally and is what braces up the United States of America and that entire justice system, and any threats to that and my personal safety and the threats of the government, the way that the ancestors created it. I mean, there's a process at corporate security and global security. I just don't know what it is. So at family security, how do I get to a family security rep? How do I flag one of them down to say, excuse me, I need help? As if my last however many phone calls to like an IP address at YouTube to hope I get to somebody interior service for domestic help. So here's international rescue at Thunderbirds. I mean, again, this has to have some kind of internal copyright law, so I'm hoping to get to one of those, like, potential heroes to add to my story to get me into the right direction or right area, since I have no idea how the humans have constructed themselves. I just see a whole lot of, and I have my own personal, at every single point, how they've upstaged me and kept me in a series of rooms where I don't know how to get out of this, or I don't know how to get myself out of poverty, especially with all the piling on of what's going on in New York at this point. Now, this is this piece with Obama. I'm listening very carefully and intently to how Gail presents his upcoming piece on this.
We got a big show today. I'm number one, Nate is back. Very excited about that. He's been on the road doing some great things back from Chicago. He's been keeping house, shall we say, Nate, some high-powered company. Got into
High-powered company. What else, Gail?
an exclusive conversation with former President Barack Obama.
Yeah, that's right, Gail. We covered a lot of ground, including his hopes and fears for the country.
Post-presidency, what about this country keeps you up at night?
The thing that I'm most worried about is the degree to which we now have a divided conversation, in part because we have a divided media.
We also compared notes on fatherhood and marriage.
Now, this was a CBS piece from 1980s. This is the one with Jane Pauley from Sunday Morning.
It's remarkable how the pictures and the narrative have changed very little since this report on immigration back in the mid-'80s. But what you're seeing here is a trickle compared to today.
The pressures of population, poverty, and politics, coupled with the promise of America, keep pushing the world to our borders. Our current policy is immigration anarchy, full of holes and hypocrisy.
The debate over how to fix what almost everyone agrees is broken is still at a standoff. Basically, Republicans want the border tightened before they address anything else.
Now, they knew this in the 80s. In the 80s, I was moved to what I refer to as a safe location, but in hindsight, looking back at it, it really kept me back or stunted my potential growth, since there was no like STEM, like science, engineering, technology, or math promoted. There was no fine arts program where it was either theater or singing or dancing. None of that was promoted. There was no planning for my future during those early years, going straight through high school into the college years, just completely wasting my time while somebody else was racing to upstage me in my adulthood that I couldn't see coming. Um, but at oligarchs that actually plan and use the astronomical system in order to like make sure their whatever is protected in the future and that they still have a whatever, um, a grip on a future reality. There was a very interesting conversation. It's referenced kind of sort of the way that it went, what it looked like, um, in when I was in St. Dominic's. Um, there was one morning we got pulled in for some special assembly, and someone, again, I don't know the diocese words. I didn't know, like, I had one theology class with the Catholics. That was it. And all they were teaching were their wardrobe vestments and like their seasonal colors, which I can't even remember this late in my life. But that was really all they went over. So we were pulled from the school into their actual church, which again, I don't know the proper words for it. It's been years and I didn't spend much time there. um and someone like almost their level, we were told, of president, like their president level for New York was coming. So I don't know if that person was actually Cardinal Timothy Dolan, or if or his level, like, again, and I apologize that I don't know how to respectfully reference. I'm trying my hardest to be respectful. um Again, I've met other just as, if not more important people, depending on who you're asking, because the conjecture always changes to like who's got like hierarchy within that system. But I've met a lot of really important people. um and so inside Harry Potter, he comes before them. They're all in their uniform, their school uniform. And I remember being in my high school uniform, and this very important part of the Catholic diocese came, and he said that he had gotten some disturbing news. Um, and there was some kind of window open in the future, um, and they were keeping an eye on it. And it would be things that would be affecting all of us in that all of us gathered there. Like, look to your left, look to your right. These are the people in your community from now until your future. You are like the leaders of the future. So, you know, again, just know who you all are, um, and just know that other people are keeping an eye on. And he couldn't go into or elaborate on what it was. Um, so that did happen. Do I have any contacts from that particular school? No, nobody stayed in touch. Um, I had one pop in or check in when I was doing real estate, just kind of like out of the blue. um, but then that was it. After that, that happens a lot.
Moments ago, House Republicans passed the strongest border security bill this country has ever seen.
Democrats generally agree the border should be secure, but want overall reform now.
I'm lucky enough to say that I've lived the American dream. I believe it's a dream that should be available for everybody.
Welcome.
That's really great to hear. Thank you for that input. I have not been able to live that same dream. In fact, I've lived quite the opposite. So I'm going to pull up that Harry Potter bit, just so the person, if it wasn't Cardinal Timothy Dolan, whoever they sent, because I'm sure that they have accurate records of their schedules of where they've been. But he's the only person on, like, if this is used as like a security alert system of some sort, he's the only one that I've seen related to New York, working still in that system. I also saw him again, and I documented it, on the New York City St. Patrick's Day parade. He was there as well. So I'm just noting where I am and where he is in space and time, because again, I have a bunch of different levels of space and time work that's gone on, and there's a couple of different whatevers, and I don't want to talk about that, but this is what is, I feel, holding me back in somehow being upstaged and not really knowing who or where to report or where to go, and how to fix it for myself and for my son, because it's, again, what's going on now is a potential future management situation. So for my planning of my son, since I'm here now and we have this astronomical clock piece together of symmetry, and having family like portrait on the system that is still considered the cash is king in this area, it seems really pertinent to make a note of it. This particular Harry Potter movie is called The Half-Blood Prince, and they numbered it in numerics 6. And this is the one that almost looked like, although Dumbledore is dressed in a very mystic way, not like a Catholic diocese professional, but more like some form of mystic, magical, educational area for which I don't have a word for, because I've never met anybody who is dressed in robes like this with a particular headdress that matches this one. So I don't know the respectful way to address this.
Very best of evenings to you all. First off, let me introduce the newest member of our staff, Horace Stubblebone. Professor Slughorn, I'm happy to say, has agreed to resume his old post as potions master. Meanwhile, the post of defense against the dark arts will be taken by Professor Snape.
Now, I wonder where that might be important in border security. And when I noticed on Jane Pauley, I really thought it was, and then when I went back, it disappeared. That happens. They showed migrants crossing and money, and the money was not the same because it was something in Central or South America or Latin America, and their money was different. It had a different leader on it, which looks very much like the people trying to make the crossings into North America. So again, with ratios and with the way that things are building, I'm concerned at the increasing number of somebody else's children in custodial issues, for like custody and custodial issues, and how to return what is not fitting into the system or not fitting into our budgeting constraints, or what's not fitting into our hygienic services. I mean, again, there's a lot of things that come into play here, but there's other populations that are already here that are being disrupted by this influx of unexpected invaders, for lack of a better, and they're not even invaders like the TV show, but like an actual uninvited guest into the family services house.
As you know, each and every one of you was searched upon your arrival here tonight, and you have the right to know why. Once there was a young man who, like you, sat in this very hall, walked this castle's corridors, stepped under its roof. He seemed to all the world a student like any other. His name, Tom Riddle. Today, of course, he's known all over the world by another name. Which is why, as I stand looking out upon you all tonight, I'm reminded of a sobering fact. Every day, every hour, this very minute, perhaps, dark forces attempt to penetrate this castle's walls. But in the end, their greatest weapon is you. Just something to think about. Now, off to bed. Pip, pip.
Very much, again, my uniform was not a robe like this. My uniform was a blazer. Not a sports jacket, but we called it a blazer. It was, I believe, an Oxford shirt. Not to tick off something Cambridge, but it was an Oxford shirt. That is just what it was called. And then it was whatever else was included in the uniform. So, and this was played out on Bravo. So that situation did happen for me in my life frame, which I see. The studios brought that out into the forefront, I guess, as a tie-in and a connection of reality between two people that don't speak, don't know, like I don't know how to get a hold of anybody. And even if I could get a hold of, I don't feel welcome necessarily I got very hurt in the area while attending Catholic school. I don't know if it was a Catholic who hurt me. I don't know if it was a Protestant that hurt me. I got knocked out. And when I came to, there were a lot of emergency service vehicles. And I was very dazed and confused. And then my parents, talk about a psychological, like, messing with your kid. My parents told me I had been drinking and that, whatever. But I went to school the next day. Nobody spoke of it. My parents didn't speak of it. And it just went silently unaddressed. And I'm like, but I didn't drink. And I know I didn't drink. And the last thing I could remember, it was daytime. And then I'm waking up on somebody's front lawn and it's nighttime. So, so it was off campus that happened. But, it's just been a bunch of really horrible being upstaged and then silenced. And like, it's on somebody's schedule. I don't have access to planning. That was taken away from me. By whom? I don't know. But it's an ongoing family service problem. But I don't even know who they are at this point. So it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. But I'm going with the conversation that I had with a real live person inside that sanctuary at that church at that time, which was maybe 1990, maybe 1991, maybe 92 at the latest, because I think I went back to Cold Spring Harbor around 93, 94. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe. Galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.